Well, it's another attack on Christians literally in the public square. And it's again Yonge and Dundas Square. For some background on this case, click here to watch the video introduction. But joining us now via Skype from Calgary is one of Canada's leading civil liberties public interest lawyers, our friend John Carpe from the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms. John, welcome to the show, and thank God you're around, because you're actually representing voices of the nations against the Yonge and Dundas Square bullies, aren't you?
It's a real privilege to come across people that are principled and courageous and willing to take a stance, and glad that we're able to help.
Well, I'm so glad. I played the recording of Natalie Bellman, a bureaucrat who runs this public square. And John, I have to tell you, if I didn't hear it with my own ears, I wouldn't have believed it. She outright says, that it's incredible to say it, I wouldn't have believed it. But she says, and you can listen to it in the video over here, she says that the very fact that some of these songs praise Jesus means it is illegal for this choir to have access to this public square, even though they've got Muslim events and Hare Krishna events and gay pride events and every other political or religious stripe under the sun. They have a Muslim kiosk giving out Korans, but not Christians. Is this anti-Christian bigotry, John?
That's about the only way that you can characterize it. I mean, it'd be nice to think it was something else, but you know, as you've said, they've had rallies for marijuana legalization and people lighting up their joints and every kind of political and religious expression imaginable. And it's a public square, and the city is fine with that. But here they really seem to have a problem with Christian expression.
Now, you've written a very meticulous, your public interest law firm, the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms, has written a very meticulous 4-page legal demand letter, which you can see on our website. And it cites case law, and it makes compelling legal arguments that what Yonge and Dundas Square is doing is illegal. Can you sum up for our viewers in layman's terms what your legal arguments are?
Well, every person in Canada enjoys a fundamental charter of freedom of religion and freedom of expression. And the Supreme Court has been very clear that the state neutrality, the government's supposed to be neutral as between competing and differing viewpoints, Christianity, atheism, Judaism, whatever. But for the government to be neutral is to allow all of these voices. It's not to try to censor them. And this is where the city of Toronto has just gone totally wrong by saying, well, we're gonna censor this Christian expression because we characterize it as proselytizing, and yet you've got proselytizing for all kinds of other things. So they completely misunderstand that the public square is for all voices, including religious voices, and including all different religious voices, which includes the Christian voice.
We've reached out to the Yonge and Dundas Square bureaucrats, these city bureaucrats. They had a fancy PR agency write back to us saying they're not going to comment, and oh, it wasn't discrimination, and oh, every other religious group uses it. Well, that's sort of the point, is every other religious group is fine. The one group that it seems to be okay to pick on in Toronto is Christians. I don't get it. I mean, we had the same issue with Reverend David Lynn a year ago. He was standing, maybe 50 feet away from the Muslim kiosk, yet he was the one who was charged. I don't get it. Is this the one acceptable bigotry left in Canada anymore, John?
That seems to be the case. I mean, I'd like to disagree with you, but when you look at how the city does allow other religions as well as political expression, I mean, when you have a rally for legalizing marijuana, that's a very definitive political opinion, and so they have no problems with that. And I think we've got a serious problem with this whole thing about proselytizing, because effectively, whether it's pot legalization or gay pride or Islam, you've got people that are promoting a message, and that's fine. But when you say, well, you can't proselytize, that's kind of like saying, well, you can't really express your opinions and try to persuade others that your opinion is the right one or the best one.
Mm-hmm. That's the essence of all these other events. John, I want to ask you one last question. As our viewers know, you and I have worked together in the past. You bring the legal smarts, we bring some of the publicity, but our viewers bring the final piece of the puzzle, and that is to chip in to help pay the bills. Now, you're representing Voices of the Nations. They don't seem like a rich rock and roll band. They are a low-budget Christian choir. Obviously, you need help with your legal fees. If the city doesn't back down, and it doesn't look like they will, I presume your next step will be to take them to court. Can you, without giving away any solicitor-client privilege information, can you give me a very quick roadmap of the legal steps you will take? And can you give me an estimate of your legal budget? Because I would like to call upon our viewers to chip in to help pay your bills. What would the next step be if the city continues to dig in its heels?
Well, in our demand letter to the city, which is posted online, we've given the city until Tuesday, November 10th to reverse its decision. If they don't reverse it, then the only reasonable alternative would be to commence a court action. And of course, Voices of the Nations would have to make a separate decision to go ahead with that. But it looks like if they're not going to reverse their decision by Tuesday, November 10th, then we're going to start a court action. We do have two full-time in-house staff lawyers, and of course that makes our legal services a lot more affordable than what any law firm would charge for it. But I mean, the costs of this court action over the next 3 to 6 to 9 to 12 months, it's going to be $5,000 or $10,000 to be able to run that court action using our staff lawyers, which again, it's a lot less than what it would be if you had a regular for-profit law firm that was doing this.
Well, John, I've known you a long time, and I've worked with you on freedom of religion cases and freedom of speech cases. I hereby pledge $100 towards your legal fees, and I'm going to call upon all our viewers who believe in equality before the law, including for Christians in the public square, who believe in freedom of speech and freedom of religion, and yeah, freedom to sing in a public square with a choir, to go to our website, antichristian.ca. Because that's what this is. This is anti-Christian. And we want to, I'm going to see, I can't speak for how our viewers will respond. John, I'm in for $100. I'm going to try and raise $2,500 in the next 48 hours to help cover your bills, because I know the choir doesn't have an extra $2,500 kicking around. And if we can get even more, if we can get $5,000, great. But let's aim for $2,500. Go to antichristian.ca. And John, can you keep us posted? Can we talk when your deadline comes next week? Can we talk again and you can tell us what happens?
Absolutely. Let's chat next week after the Tuesday, November 10th deadline.
John, thanks for fighting for freedom. You're one of so few people in Canada doing it, and we need it now more than ever. Folks, go to antichristian.ca and join me. I'm chipping in $100. I'd like to challenge you to do the same. For TheRebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant.